I want to see you scratching.
Yeah, you have gotten bigger in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's good. How about cats? Can you do cats?
We have cats.
Okay.
My husband had to.
Yep.
Call a council meeting to order. Everybody stand for the pledge, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, take the roll.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here.
Morissette.
Here.
Wakefield. Here. Knutson.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Brook. Here. Hall.
Here.
All right, the first thing we wanted to do was introduce our new canine, Chief and Tracy.
Yeah. Good evening, council. So yeah, this is Raider, our new facility canine. Handler is Officer Tracy Hall. She's also our community relations officer and handler for the facility dog. So he started with us about a month ago. About a month. This is his first day. He's actively going through training right now to be certified as a service dog. But yeah. So you have anything you want to talk about with the training or anything with him?
Here. So obviously Raider, he's a golden doodle. He's about 12 weeks old right now. And he was donated to us by 10 Mile Creek Golden Doodles out of Richmond. And then we are doing training through Soldier 6. It's a nonprofit organization out of the cities.
Nice.
That does primarily training for veterans and police officers that are retired and suffer from PTSD. They train them service dogs for them, and then in addition, they do therapy work for police departments. So our training is donated to us through them. So he will be trained as a service dog, so then we don't have any issues with getting them into buildings and things, but his work would be therapeutic as a therapy dog. Our primary focus is, like you said, is a facility dog within our department. We'll be working together, kind of going off of our mental health initiative that we have at the police department, help boost morale, reduce stress, things like that. Be there for the officers after specific calls, and help decompress with Raider. We'll be going into nursing homes and daycares and really focusing on the schools when they're in session. But we'll also be doing a lot of community engagement stuff. So like tomorrow night we'll be out at National Night Out, meeting and greeting, and then hoping to really open up some of that dialogue and being able to have conversations with community members. He's a lot more approachable than some of us, so we're hoping to kind of open up that dialogue as well.
Nice.
Some newer programs, and we're also still learning as we go and open to utilize it the best we can.
Every other Monday now, council meetings as well.
Stress reliever.
And how can we
staff
donate?
on
Or
Tuesday morning.
What's that?
I said at least for staff on Tuesday mornings.
There we go, Seth.
Yeah. We're that hard on you.
He can start doing the mail run.
Yeah, I'll train him on that. Yes, sir?
can we support the program?
Yeah, so we are just doing the K-9 fund.
Yep.
So then that will help with any kind of medical or any other training or anything else that we use, equipment, things like that as we go.
Okay.
So yeah, through the K-9 fund, we're kind of joining forces with them.
Nice.
So that it makes it easier so people don't have to donate to one or the other, it's just donate to the fund as a whole.
Perfect.
Very nice.
And do we know what size he's expected to get to?
Full grown, so about 60 pounds is what we're estimating. Mom is very standard poodle, and dad was kind of a stockier, much shorter golden retriever. So
Nice.
he does have a his dad in him, how he's built and broad chested, so probably a little bit more on the stocky end.
Very nice. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you
That
very
looks
much.
like Randy.
Thank you.
Looks like Randy.
Does he look like Randy a little bit?
Us animals stick together.
You got a fun that we can do.
Golden doodles stick together? Is that what you're saying? All right. Next up is comments from citizens present. This is your opportunity to discuss, bring to us any issue that you'd like to talk about that's not currently on the agenda this evening. If you do have a comment, please come to the podium, identify yourself, and you give your address. Try to keep your comments brief. Try not to repeat other people's comments. So, does anybody have a comment? Any comment? Any comment? Any comment? Hearing none, we'll move on. Consent agenda.
Approve the meeting minutes from the July 21st, 2025 regular council meeting. Approve claims in the amount of $1,192,884.71. Approve the final development plan review of tax parcel 236-2001-02-040, the Doran Family Development LLC, and approve a conditional use permit to amend Carmichael Ridge Master Plan in regard to tax parcel 236-2001-02-040, the Duran Family Development LLC.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Roll call.
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Ruck?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion's approved. Consent agenda is approved. Discussion of possible action on second reading of ordinance 8-25, amending chapter 141 of the municipal code of the city of Hudson, short-term rentals.
Mr. Mayor, I can take that one. Mike Johnson and his team have been working on this ordinance, and Mike is ill tonight, which is why he's not here. But what you have in front of you is the updated, or the most current draft of the updated ordinance. As the council had discussed previously, this does contain an owner occupancy requirement, with the owner being required to reside in the premises a minimum of 183 days per calendar year. It requires, that's number one, and number two, it creates a proximity limitation of 300 feet between short-term home rentals measured from the property line. And so there would not be an ability to have multiple condos on the same or within 300 feet of one another with that proximity limitation or restriction included. It requires proof of notification to owners of adjacent properties in the form of a notarized affidavit. It requires that certain information be made publicly available on the city website for all short-term rentals, including name, phone number, address of the license holder, address of the rental property, and the date of the license expiration. It includes a cap of 25 rentals, short-term rentals in the entire city, with no more than 15 for properties located within planning districts 1 and 2, considered as a single district, and no more than 15 in any other planning district, those planning districts being as identified in the city's most recently adopted comprehensive plan. And also creates an enforcement opportunity when multiple complaints are filed with the Hudson Police Compliance Officer and then updates the violations and the penalties provision to include additional monetary penalties for violation. This is the second reading. It is available for action without suspending the rules. From my perspective, there are really kind of two primary policy considerations that the council should make a determination on. The first being whether it wants to include that owner occupancy requirement, and then secondarily, if it wants to continue to include that 300 feet restriction from property line to property line, or from property line to the next available short-term rental. We can certainly discuss the others as well if the council has other questions or concerns, but I think those are the two areas that remain open. I did share with the city administrator and with staff, there have been a couple of recent decisions that have come out of the Wisconsin Court of Appeals. One relating to home occupancy as a requirement. That case provided that home occupancy could not be a requirement. However, that specific ordinance at question was not just a 1 to 6 night ordinance. It covered all short-term rentals and expanded beyond to the 7 nights plus, which is really where the court had an issue because you'll recall that Wisconsin is a right-to-rent state and we can't put limitations on 7 nights plus. So it's not clear whether an occupancy requirement would survive for just 1 to 6 night rentals. I suspect it probably would. That's probably at odds with what you, well, it's not probably, it is at odds with what you require right now because you don't have a home occupancy requirement, and you have permits that have been issued where folks will be renewing next year that would not be eligible because they don't occupy these particular properties, and likely won't next year when they renew. So, you know, the questions there, do you want to require that home occupancy piece, requiring people to actually have to live in the property for 183 days, or should that be removed? And then secondarily, are you okay with the proximity restrictions limiting short-term rentals to 300 feet between one another as measured from the property line?
Point of clarification, I was thinking, if I recall correctly from our past conversations, those folks that have a license existing already, I thought the intent was that they were grandfathered in.
You can specifically grandfather them in. The question is, are they simply then going to be grandfathered in perpetuity? Because remember, the license renews every year. And presumably, we're going to say that these regulations apply to folks moving forward, right? Because you want uniformity in the enforcement of the ordinance against the existing properties. So that's another piece of that discussion. Theoretically, and I suppose conceptually, yes, we don't necessarily want to change the ability of the people who are currently getting licensed to have licenses moving forward. That being said, we don't want to be in a position where we're trying to enforce some of the requirements but not others of the requirements because they have existing permits, particularly when these permits renew on an annual basis. So we should have clarity. If you decide that you want to keep the owner occupancy requirement, then there should be clarity as to whether that piece of it will be allow for grandfathering or whether it will not allow for grandfathering, because it will have an impact on current license holders into the future as they renew their permits.
I'll take the first pitch. I'm not interested in having a residency requirement. Plain and simple.
I think, actually, I know we had residents who had different opinions of that, and residents that were greatly impacted in the downtown district where the bulk of these sit. So I have the counter position to you on that, Randy. I would be in favor of grandfathering those that have license. That is something that I would be open to explore.
I'd agree with that.
For the remainder of their license or for the remainder of owning the house? Because if the license is renewed, it's my understanding that they start at square one then? When you reapply, you don't automatically get a license for the next one, correct?
That's right, and you'll note on the third page, the blue lining on the third page indicates for license applications made after the effective date of this ordinance, all short-term home rental properties must be owner-occupied unless the properties are only rented for 7 consecutive days or more. So right now, we don't exempt out those that hold permits on the date of enactment of this amendment. Now, we could, and if the council wants to make that policy determination, we can certainly have a list of people that have permits today, and we can exempt them in future applications if we want to do that, if that's the desire of the council.
But when the end of the year, when they have to renew, they're not automatically granted another
Correct.
license.
So if they let it lapse and they came back in,
Even
then
if but they have to renew every year. And renewing every year doesn't guarantee them a license, correct or not? So once you have a license, it's just a renewal, it's not reapplying.
Well, you're reapplying. It's an annual license that lasts for a year, and it expires at the end of the year, and then you have to reapply. So you are renewing it, but it's a new application because the term is only for 1 year at a time.
I think the question is it an automatic renewal as long as they're complying with all of the requisite timetable?
That's how it's been treated. Yeah.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if there were 10 people waiting in the wings, when it comes to time for the licenses to be handed out, do they have a chance to get in on it, or do they have to wait till somebody doesn't reapply?
We don't currently have a cap right now, so that's not been an issue in the past. But presumably, if you have a permit, and we should probably build this in as well, it's a good point, that you receive priority, and it's essentially a renewal. And if you don't reapply, then it lapses, and then you're out.
Okay.
And then the next person on the list has the opportunity to apply, or has the opportunity for processing of their application.
Am I correct that a new applicant has to have a fire inspection, county?
Correct.
Do they have to repeat that every year?
Correct.
They do?
Yep.
Okay. So if a person failed to do that, didn't get the paperwork in, didn't reapply, it is possible to lose your spot. But, and Mr. Avenia, you said we don't have a cap right now, but we're contemplating a cap.
Correct.
So that will make, right.
Correct.
Thank you.
The other prerequisite, just so that the council is aware, is that there is a corresponding county permit that's required as well, a tourist rooming house permit or license. So in addition to having a city license or permit, they're also required to have a county license and permit and to go through their process.
So what happens if there is some type of the difference between whether we approve it and the county approves it? One body approves it and the other one doesn't. You have to have both?
You have to have both, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So what is it, my questions go more to the penalty side. And what happens if, what if the penalties are more stringent at the county or vice versa? So let me give it start this on a different track here. It would seem to me that the penalties aren't all that great. You got, for a person that has, someone that actually has a license is treated differently than someone who doesn't, if they're found to be in violation of this. Is that correct?
Someone who has a license is different than somebody who
Yeah, if you
doesn't.
have is it a,
Any person.
So on the second, in the blueprint, it's, without a license or violates any of the performance standards while unlicensed shall be subject to fine, conviction, or up to a forfeiture of $500 up to $1,000 for each offense, right?
Correct.
Isn't that being treated differently than someone that actually has a license that's found in violation?
Because is that one, the A, where it's 250, no less than 250 and no more than 750 for each offense?
I'm thinking, but it doesn't say that specifically.
Well, if they're unlicensed, B, which is, like you said, highlighted in B, I read that as, or violates any of the performance standards in 141-4 while unlicensed. In other words, you're unlicensed.
And you're
Yeah,
operating.
that to me, that paragraph would apply to them. I don't know.
It would, yeah,
Does
but
it?
what about people that are licensed?
Yeah, so I think that the reason that we added this is because there's, as drafted, there's not currently a forfeiture for operating an unlicensed home rental.
Currently,
Currently, correct.
but once, okay, so.
And so if you're operating as a licensed host effectively, or a licensed short-term rental operator, and you're not meeting the performance standards, but you have a license, do we have to address that piece of it? If you are operating.
Do we, are you asking the question, do
No,
we,
that's-
or are we saying we do?
No, we do, that's the existing language.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so B is the new language, which addresses those that operate without a license, and yes, they are treated more stringently, because we don't want,
Unlicensed?
No,
Unlicensed.
I just wanted to, I get that this is the current language. It just, one is very specific about unlicensed and the other doesn't
Correct.
reference licensed, even though it's existing language.
correct,
Okay?
and that's the reason that we added this language, is because
I
we,
would think that this should be amended just to say.
Well, should we
what is
insert
licensed.
in item
Right.
A to say a
Licensed.
licensed
Well, I would
individual?
say to begin with, yeah, but that's not exactly where I'm going with this yet, but I would say at a minimum, absolutely,
Okay.
okay? I think, first of all, I mean, what do we do with somebody with multiple violations? If they're renting a place for, you know, $3,000 a weekend or whatever, $1,000 fine doesn't seem like a whole. You know, I mean,
correct.
They could do that every week.
correct.
And they're making money.
Except that we have limitations as to what forfeitures we can charge as associated with municipal citations.
Okay.
Which is why the limit of $1,000.
And then I would go back to those that are licensed and say, if you have repetitious violations, we should probably start looking at pulling their license.
Correct. And you have those remedies in the prior section.
It's in there? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have those remedies in 141-9.
C.
And we can always call for a modification, suspension, or revocation of an existing license.
Okay.
Could I add on to, since we're talking about penalties, I also, that's definitely a concern for me, is how do we enforce this? We could write something that's very detailed, laid out, but some people don't care, won't take the time to read it, you name it. What do we do if, I think this came up in another issue that we were discussing as a council, well, sometimes a business person will say, okay, there's a lien on my property, I'm not gonna worry about that. When I sell my property in a few years, I'll take care of the lien. Is there something more that we can do, some sort of, looking at item C, 141-10, item C, about additional remedies or injunction? What else would we, it would require us taking legal action, but what would that look like?
Well, and we have two of those situations that we'll talk about in closed session tonight. But just so that the public is aware, if we have repeated violations, we can ticket, and every day is a violation. We could ticket every day if we want to. That's not generally my preference, only because judges kind of get tired of seeing repeat tickets. And the goal is always to ensure compliance, right? It's not to put somebody in a position where economically it's more beneficial to violate than it is to get a ticket. And so then ultimately we would pursue an injunction or litigation in court, asking the court to declare the person in violation of the ordinance, requiring them to stop, And if they don't, then they would be held, would be held in contempt, and that's the force of a judicial order. And then they could be subject to arrest if they continue to violate the ordinance without compliance. We hope that we never get that far.
Right, but there's where we'd have some teeth now.
Correct.
That individual is answering to the judge.
Correct.
In contempt of the judge's order versus Becky sending out another cease and desist letter, which they, have some people ignore.
And it's not different than any other ordinance that requires somebody to do something, and they continue to violate it, right? So oftentimes we'll get properties that don't get cleaned up. We had a situation on 3rd Street that was just a habitual issue, and the next step would have been then to take that matter to court and get a court order and require compliance as provided by a judge, where a judge declares the property owner to be in violation and to have to do something to come into compliance. This is the same concept, and that's that injunctive relief concept, where if we have to sue people, we will, to force compliance. We don't want to. It's more costly. It's more time consuming. But if they're unwilling to comply. I mean, the other piece of this is, the question about, do you need a county permit and do you need a city permit at the same time? Absolutely. And you can't just say, well, I have one and I don't need the other, so I'm going to tell people that I have a license and I'm good to go. That doesn't work either. Unless you meet the requirements, you cannot operate an unlicensed rental property. And we're going to enforce those situations because it's becoming a more regular occurrence in town. And we need to make sure that we're maintaining compliance in order particularly to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe and secure, and that they're not overrun by short-term rentals.
I have another question, if I could, about the complaint process. I mentioned last time that I was glad to see that it was being directed to our law enforcement, because as a city, we have chosen to delegate code enforcement to our police department. And so the actual complaint goes to our code enforcement police officer, which there is a designated person that the police chief has chosen. I wanted to ask about because I do know of a situation in my district where a resident called the non-emergency line and filed a report about, parking and so on. It was a cul-de-sac situation, lots of vehicles. And I wondered does that count as a complaint if it's a phone call and a discussion, or does it have to be done in writing? Is it notarized in writing? No, let's see, where is that? I'm on 2 complaints. It's item 1, that's 141-9 going down to C, and then D covers this process. Whereas the mayor mentioned there could be suspension or revocation based on problems that city officials detect, but also complaints filed to the police department. So could you, how formal do those complaints have to be?
So let's address 2 situations first. The first situation is that there's an issue that needs to be addressed. So Brent and Mike and their teams oftentimes direct people to call law enforcement for immediately addressing those issues. So if there's an issue with parking, or if there's an issue with loud noise or people in the driveway or whatnot, those that are concerned are directed, call law enforcement to take care of the issue, and to get a more immediate response than calling city staff at City Hall. So that's number one. This type of complaint that's referenced here in the ordinance is really a complaint that is seeking modification, suspension, or revocation. So if a neighbor says, we have an unlicensed short-term rental, or maybe it's a licensed short-term rental, but there are repeated issues, and they want to request a modification of the license or a suspension or a revocation of the license, then they're required to put it in writing, they get it notarized, it gets submitted to the city, or it gets submitted to the compliance officer. Then the compliance officer has something in writing that's sworn, that's attested to, that they can then look at, present to the homeowner and say, we have an issue, your neighbors are asking that your permit be modified or revoked or suspended, and they have something to work from. So if it's short term, hey, I need something addressed now, it's call law enforcement so that there can be a more immediate response. If it's, we're having an issue with this particular home in our neighborhood, you need to suspend this, or you should consider suspending this license or revoking it. Those complaints get put in writing, get notarized, get submitted, and then we follow up through the process.
Okay, so that part in writing. Thank you. And then one other question. Are HOAs allowed to have a stricter guidance or ruling on short-term rentals within their
Yes.
property boundary than the city?
They can absolutely prohibit short-term rentals if they'd like, because it's all contractual between the property owners.
Okay. That's what I thought, but I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
So, go ahead, Mike.
Thanks. Quick follow-up to your previous thing. So there's an issue with parking or noise at a address, and the police are called, and how does that trigger your desk, let's say? The police don't really know necessarily that they're showing up at a someone that rented it for 2 nights. How are we gonna keep track of that if there are violations? I'm just trying to figure out how that's gonna happen. Could have, parties, 3 or 4 times in a summer, and the police are there, but it's never gonna get back to you necessarily, unless we have I know it's only 25, max of 25, but we're gonna have to do double checking then of either the police roll, or the police calls, or the police are gonna have to report addresses back to you. I'm just not sure how that can all.
What that line of communication is.
Yeah.
Well, I think it has to flow up through the chief, and then it has to, if there are properties that are problematic, then that has to flow back to City Hall, because if you look at C sub 3 on 141-9, a modification, suspension, or revocation can be justified by any violation of local, county, or state laws, regulations, ordinances, which based on their number, frequency, or severity and their relation to the short-term home rental property substantially harm or adversely impact the surrounding neighborhood. So that doesn't take 2. If there's 1 violation that's significant, or if there are 2 or multiple, whatever it might be, that the city is aware of, the city could, on its own initiative, then take the step of notifying the property owner, make the recommendation for suspension or revocation or modification. So it's not that the 2 complaints is the only trigger. If the city is aware of a problematic property that is substantially harming or adversely impacting the surrounding neighborhood, the city can take its own action. So, from my perspective, that would be a matter of the police department saying, hey, we're getting a bunch of calls for this particular property, letting the clerk know, letting the city administrator know, and then the city staff deciding what action it wants to recommend to the council.
And then we just need to keep a list updated for the
Right.
police.
For them to run it through, yeah.
So they
Okay.
have it on their radar.
And can you tell me what a modification might look like?
Additional conditions,
Okay.
more restrictive conditions than as originally
okay.
included with the permit.
All right.
So one other question I would have is, should people who are knowingly in violation of this ordinance, especially the ordinance that's currently in place, be allowed to have a license?
For a compliant property?
Well, if they are right now knowingly, we're gonna be, like you said, we're going into closed session to discuss a couple issues here. These people, I would say, are knowingly in violation of this, and also potentially having pending license applications in front of us.
Well, here's the other thing to remember. These licenses are privileges, they're not rights. So if a person is in violation, repeated violation, there is no right to maintain a license in this city for short-term rentals. So to your point, and that's something we can certainly discuss in closed session with respect to one of the property owners and operators, that could be a grounds for revoking another permit that has been issued to the same property owner validly.
Okay, that's a little bit beyond where I was going, but I get it. My question is more, would we even consider them for a license?
And you don't
For
have
the
to.
property that's in violation.
Yeah, and you certainly don't have to. If they're in violation, if they're operating without a license, and they come in and say, I'd like a license, you can deny based on any reasonable grounds. You have the discretion to deny, again, because it's a privilege, not a right. So there are a whole host of scenarios that you can consider in making a determination as to whether that person gets a license.
Okay.
And if you have other applicants and you're weighing which applicant should get a license because you have a cap, well, you have to make a determination as to who should be granted the available licenses. So could come into play in that scenario as well.
Okay.
So currently, the clerk takes the application, the inspections are done, and then the clerk issues the license without consulting the council or anyone else, is that correct?
Correct.
And this ordinance does not change that process?
Correct.
Correct.
But would they all be on the same cycle of that January? They're all in the
It's
same?
not, they expire at the end of September.
They
End
all-
of end of September.
I just wanted to ask one more thing about the occupancy of 183 days. You said there were issues with that you had spoken about. Is it a property maintenance issue, or is it more of a noise thing? How having someone reside there 183 days, just so there's fewer times it's rented, or how would that address, hands down, how would that address their concerns? I'm not trying to question that, just
Yeah.
how would that?
I think you hit all the points. So there's concern about things not being maintained as well, that there is more traffic and presence in their neighborhood, and these are neighborhoods, these aren't places of business.
Yeah.
And protecting their neighborhood tranquility,
Okay.
because again, these are neighborhoods and not business districts. So these are businesses operating in neighborhoods.
Would any of the updates here about violations and things, would that address any of those without adding the 183 days, or not really? With the noise complaints and things like that, would any of those address that without having the 100? I'm just trying to figure out where I land with the 183 days.
Right, right. I feel like from what I've heard from residents, I can assure you they would be disappointed if we walked away from that. I
Okay.
do think the way I believe it's been talked about in past council meetings is grandfathering people in, and I know that is how I have represented it, that current license, are grandfathered in. And I'll make sure to go back and watch the council meetings. But I would feel comfortable with that, and then moving forward with any new.
Sure.
And picking, I don't know if we want, knowing that there's 14 active license, right, holders right now, so it's not that many. I say that as not the person that enforces that, so it feels like that might be a more manageable way and palatable for the existing license holders too.
And grandfathered in for perpetuity, or till they apply for their license the following year? Because you reapply every year. It's not just that you send in a check for,
Mm-hmm.
Is it comparable to a liquor license? I mean, it's your liquor license as long as you.
Correct.
It's a privilege, not a right, but as long as you check the boxes, that is still going to be your license.
Correct.
For the next year.
Correct.
Would it be applicable
Yes.
to that? So that when you're using the word grandfathered, maybe we phrase it that people who already have been issued a license, and we could
License.
put, and are in compliance,
Right.
we could put something like that, have been in compliance, would remain in good standing to get their license again. In other words, they get to keep that license. But we could put a phrase in to address your concern, but, because I hear what you're saying. If people are sort of thumbing their noses at what we're asking right now, then, are they
That
first in
wouldn't
line?
help your neighborhood, because it sounds like those would then be allowed to maintain non-residency for as long as they hold their license, reapply for a license. Okay.
And it wouldn't be, the grandfathershipness, whatever, that would go with the homeowner, not the property and not the building, right?
Yeah,
Couldn't then sell that house to an outside
Right.
company.
I think the way I would structure it would be to say that we maintain a list of both the owners and the properties.
Okay.
And as long as the owners and the properties remain the same, both of them, then they are not required to comply with the residency requirement.
Okay.
But if the owner changes, or if the property loses its character as a short-term rental, because they occupy it on a full-time
Yep.
basis, and they're no longer a short-term rental, then they lose that status.
Okay.
It's kind of like a legal non-conforming use, and I hesitate to use that example because this is not a zoning ordinance. This is a regulatory ordinance that is not related to land use. It's a general governmental ordinance. That being said, it's kind of the same concept, that as long as the use continues to stay the same, the ownership continues to stay the same, then there's a narrow exception. But once ownership changes or the use changes, then that exception is gone, and then the property has to fully comply.
Because the best benefit of having owner occupied for the 180 whatever days, otherwise a person come in, apply, buy 3 houses, get 3 licenses if we haven't filled our quota yet, and they're gonna be living somewhere else, and this thing is gonna be turning every weekend. It's gonna be the party house.
But that's what currently is where you're at?
There are some, there's not all. There are
Okay.
some that are issues and there are some that are not.
So that was my next question
Yeah.
was, how many properties do not have issues that are not owner occupied and are, and don't have complaints from the neighbors? Do you know?
There's, the majority, I would, yeah. Thank you, that's good.
I don't know.
No, I don't know, I don't have an exact number for you.
But, okay, but
But
the majority
the majority,
there are issues.
I would say there's a good handful that's problematic.
Okay. I'm just thinking, okay, is it fair to punish people that are doing a good job of maintaining their business by making them change to living in their property?
Another point to consider with that is, back to what Councilmember Kennedy was saying, if somebody comes in and buys these homes, they tend to be the more affordable ones that go off of the market, and it is taking housing options out of the mix for people. When we know that housing issues, that's a problem here.
And like you mentioned, you use the term, if the people are doing a good job at their business, renting out their house. It's not a business, though. I mean, that's kind of the point you brought up, that this is residential rental. And that number is, it's almost that instead of owner occupied for half the year, we could say you can only rent your house out for half the year. I don't know what you do with it the other half of the year. Then you get into the maintenance, et cetera, but do we consider this turning a house into a 365 a day business in a neighborhood? Where the owner occupancy kind of softens the blow of that?
We shouldn't
Spreads
be
it out.
considering it at all. It's not our choice. You don't own it.
Does occupancy
don't-
mean they
you
have
don't-
to be in the home for 183 days? I mean, like, or just that they can't it's almost like what you said, it's more like they just can't rent it out those days. I mean,
Constantly, yeah.
no one's gonna prove if they were sitting in their living room or not for 183 days.
You are. We're gonna
That's
redo
on
that.
my, okay, I gotcha.
No, but yeah, I'm having trouble.
What would imply that you live there, you live in Hudson, you are registered to vote in Hudson? I mean, obviously, we're not going to be sending out our investigative team to make sure those things, but it's that idea that this is your home. And my comments on that, because I see this issue as a sharp edge between zoning, which is very protective for our community, and property rights.
Yeah.
I want to do what I want to do with my property. And as you know, I hesitated at the beginning when we first talked about this ordinance in June, because I was concerned about the owner occupancy. And I know that there are other communities in the state of Wisconsin that do require it. And yes, case law is critical, yet I do also think we need to move forward with what's best for Hudson. And they are residential neighborhoods. Several of you have commented on this. People are trying to bring a business into a residential neighborhood. Just one meeting ago, we had a family with a 16-year-old boy who wanted to detail cars one at a time in the driveway. And they had to go through all the paperwork to get the certificate of compliance, because I'm running a business, only these hours, all the neighbors had to approve. It was in an HOA community, jumping through hoops to run a very small business, a 16-year-old, wanting to do that. Those of us who've been on the council for a while, people who want to have maybe a hair salon in their home, they have to prove they have parking. How many clients will they see at a time? Is there only one chair? All those things that are hurdles to having a business in your home, in a residential neighborhood. And the short-term rental concept has sort of, it's come out from society and how people like to travel. And I'm sure a lot of us that sit here today have stayed in short-term rentals before when we travel. But yet we also have to think about...
No.
Pardon me?
No, he stays free at the hotels around the country.
Sorry, see, Randy, Good point, Randy, thank you. But again, I come down on the side of the zoning is there to protect those neighborhoods. And I think that we need to try to protect them as much as we can. And I would hope that the state of Wisconsin would see that issue in accordance with how their communities are feeling about it. Perhaps a division for some of their really major, like the Wisconsin Dells and areas like that. But even those communities in the Dells area do have some restrictive ordinances. They're attempting to control it also, because it does change, it has the potential to change the nature of your neighborhood, your community. So I do favor requiring that this is my home, I live here, but I'm going to rent it occasionally. That's the flavor I think we should have.
All right, so what do you want to do tonight? Are we ready to start to work on this, to amend it, or you want to send it back and go through a little revision on it and bring it back again?
I'd like to take the comments back and put this on at the next council meeting, or one of the next two council meetings. We're still operating under our moratorium, so we're just fine there. I presume that the council is largely on board with a narrow exception for the grandfathering concept for those that currently hold licenses. Is that a fair understanding of the discussion?
So how long of a term would that be for allowing them to continue?
Well, presumably it would be for as long as they own the property and the property is used as a short-term rental and of a continuous nature.
And they're compliant.
And they're in compliance.
When they're in compliance, yes.
And out of our 14, do we have any idea of how many would qualify for grandfathering?
Presumably all of them, if they're in
All
compliance.
14 if
But
they're
what he's asking is
yeah.
how many are not owner occupied?
I don't know.
There could be some currently. We're not making up a rule that won't apply to anyone.
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
it's not all, so some.
3.
I would guess that most are not owner occupied.
Most are not owner
Most are
occupied.
not
Okay.
owner occupied.
Yeah.
I have no idea, I don't know.
Of the ones I know of, I don't think any of them are owner occupied.
Okay. I mean, that
Nick, if you are going back and going to rework this, I do want to address your issue on proximity. Personally, I'm in favor with sticking at that 300 feet, and I would think all of you whose districts are subject now to having 10 Airbnbs would want that kind of protection as well, so that you don't have a whole bunch in one block.
Yeah, so that was my other question, just to clean up before we take this back. Is the council generally aligned on the 300-foot limitation? And really what that means, I mean, it's pretty easy to envision in a traditional residential setting, but if you have condos in your district, and you have an Airbnb or a VRBO, short-term rental, in a condo building, then it's gonna prevent other units in that building or in that dense area from being eligible for a license or permit. So I just want to make sure that we have alignment on that before we bring that back as a recommendation.
I think that's helpful because, I mean, if I were living in a condo unit, I don't know that I would want a number of the condos to be short-term rentals at the same time.
I mean, for example, the building across the street, it has 3 units in it up, and if one of the units were a short-term rental, then you wouldn't be able to, neither of the other 2 unit owners would be able to apply for a short-term rental license. And that's the sort of concept that we would be adopting, which from my perspective is just fine. I just want to make sure that that's the direction that the council wants to go from a policy perspective.
Yes.
Yes, I'm with
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Then we can just plan it. with
Yeah,
that.
well, before we kind of go on to the next piece, I want to make sure under 141-9A, when it comes to a licensing decision, now we had conversation about violations, right? But from what's written in this policy as it is today, essentially the clerk's got a decision to deny or approve, but if we're instructing her to deny based on maybe some repeat violations or potentially they're operating without a license before, I mean, they're caught, let's say down the road, doesn't matter who, they get caught for operating without a license, are we giving the clerk the ability to deny those because you were operating without a license? And how would we write that in here?
Well, we don't currently indicate what the rationale can be for denial. We just indicate that it's the clerk's decision to deny.
That puts a lot of onus on the clerk, and I'm not sure how much you want to push to the clerk versus, you know, with a liquor license and everything else, that comes to the council if they were previously in violation of something.
And that's
You might not
the,
approve them.
that's the other option. I mean, we could certainly require that the council approve the short-term rental licenses.
Maybe a recommendation from the clerk come to council, but
You could do that on a once-a-year basis if you want. I mean, if your licenses expire in, is it at the end of August or the end of September?
End of September.
So at the September meeting, or one of the September meetings, the clerk could make a recommendation, and it could just be on consent for approval, and you could pull any that you need to. But we could certainly change it to a council-approved process. I don't know how you feel about that.
I would prefer that, actually.
yeah, just the idea with violations, I think you're gonna end
I'm just
up,
gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I think a number of these probably start without a license and then they get caught. I can tell you one that I stayed in that it was not licensed. Yeah, when I was moving here looking for places, didn't realize they weren't licensed. So you're gonna have those that just start operating. It's pretty easy to get set up on any of these and they start operating, and how long do they get away with it? And
So we can certainly make it a recommendation from the clerk and approval by the council if that's the direction that the council wants to move.
I think that's a good idea.
I do
I
too.
think that supports you better, yeah.
then I think that plays into the violations piece a lot better
Yeah.
as well. But
Okay, we good? Good?
Thank you. Good discussion.
All right, discussion and possible action to approve plans for the 6th Street staircase and authorize ad for bid. Aaron?
Hello, Erin McPhee Anderson, city engineer. This item, the 6th Street stairs have failed due to stormwater erosion. So we have already approved a design engineer, Bolton and Mink, to inspect the stairs, and they've prepared 90% plans. We've discussed with them kind of the most economical repair options. One of the bigger items is replacement of the railing. The existing railing is just not salvageable, and it doesn't make sense to not have a railing. So that's part of the project as well. And the construction cost is estimated to be $100,000 to do the repairs, including the new railing. We did ask for them to provide an estimate for just full removal of the stairs, and that would be about $60,000, so about $40,000 less to just remove the stairs. It may sound like a lot, but there's a lot more to it, since you have to kind of refill in the hole and kind of figure out something to do with drainage down the hill. So those are the two options. We have about $400,000 left in the stormwater utility funds. So that would be the proposed funds available because it was due to stormwater erosion that kind of undermined the stairs. And we went through Public Works Committee, which approved the 90% plan. So we're looking to just see which way the council would like to move forward with the 6th Street stairs.
I'll move to approve to send out an ad for bid.
I'll second that.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just think the stairs, for as limited use as it gets, is a very expensive proposition.
I'm with you. I don't understand why we're even discussing this, frankly. They're not utilized, and even for the people that do utilize them, it's for how many months out of the year? And to me, it's just more of a liability, and then we have to maintain them. So I don't understand this, frankly.
What's the repair process that they've designated? Because
Yeah,
there was
so-
some talk about whether the stairs themselves were still viable.
Yeah, the stairs themselves are actually pretty structurally sound. There's a drainage swale on the side of them, like a concrete drainage swale all the way down that has literally like broken apart in some areas. So that was gonna be completely ripped out, and they were gonna do riprap instead. And then the actual stairs themselves is more almost like patching, I guess you could say, and they're also gonna fill in. There is some voids under the stairs,
Yeah.
even though they're kind of have structural integrity. They're gonna fill in with some gravel underneath as well. And do a little bit of vegetation management. They're very overgrown. If you go to them right now, you don't really notice that they're there because it's so overgrown. So they were gonna do some clearing and grubbing on either side of the stairs as well.
What kind of maintenance would be needed on an annual basis and then sporadic basis?
I'm not as far as like concrete repair or like just like snow removal and.
Any and all.
I guess I don't know if. Okay, we just
Yeah,
close them down during
there
the.
would be no snow removal.
Yeah, so close down during the winter. There wouldn't necessarily be any yearly maintenance, maybe continuing to do vegetation management so they don't get so overgrown, and making sure the railing, looks good and is intact.
So what is our liability exposure on this? To me, I'm thinking as a 12-year-old, once again, moving back into that. To me, it's kind of an attractive nuisance. God, I'd love to go down that stairway on my bike, my skateboard, especially in the winter. Maybe bring my sled over there or my toboggan. What's our exposure?
Well, if you're maintaining a condition that's known to be dangerous, that's concerning, right? That being said, I mean, if you have stairs that are closed off, that are clearly marked, that aren't to be used, and somebody decides that they're going to use them, well, then you really don't have exposure. So it's a matter of what are you allowing to be open and available and usable, given the condition you know them to be in.
So we're expecting that a 12-year-old is going to recognize that they're assuming the liability.
No, but it's more or less a question of what actions have you taken to mark it as dangerous or to mark it as closed, frankly. You know, we're using a reasonable person standard, not the standard of a 12-year-old. So it's what would a reasonable person know and expect, and if they see gating up or if they see tape or whatever.
No, but what about just even in the summertime? You know, is it going to be posted as being dangerous in the summer? So, and if I'm a 12-year-old and I see dangerous, and yeah, man,
But we do have other stairways in the city too, though.
yeah, not like that.
Well, and if, for what it's worth, because we had some pretty in-depth conversation, Public Works, kind of where I think the funnel that we kind of went down was that we're still searching for how long those stairs have been there. They're not fairly new. They've been around forever, since Randy was a kid, I think. So 70s.
I was only 12.
Yeah. So you're the 12-year-old kid he's
And
thinking about.
he
many
did
times
not
you
ride a
tell them?
skateboard on it.
So, and again, that this is putting out to bid so we can actually have, no pun intended, concrete facts of what it would actually cost us. I know we have this estimate, but we kind of had the three options. One is do nothing, so we have an overgrown, attractive nuisance as it is right now, I would think, as is. That costs us, I guess, nothing. To rip it out is roughly 60 grand. That's a lot of money for more nothingness, but a safer nothingness. And then the possibility that due to kind of an act of God, this all washing out is why we're having this conversation. So we kind of, maybe it was one of us who said, you know, there's other things that have been around in Hudson forever, the staircase, the arch, for example. If we had a tornado or a washout, would we just say, well, it's gone now, let's walk away from it? So we were more approaching this with, let's get real cold hard numbers on this and see, and then we can literally lay it in front of us. Replace, do nothing, or not replace, but get back to working order, do nothing, or rip it out. So that's kind of where we were going. We weren't saying at all costs, let's replace this thing. It's, let's get real numbers on it. I don't know if that's a fair summary or.
No, absolutely, and we have had a number of discussions. If I'm not mistaken, the stairs are actually closed and have been for over a year.
Yep.
I don't know if there's still a sign hanging there or not, but,
Last summer,
you know,
yeah.
it was indicated a year ago, so. And you're right, I think our discussion was that not only is it a historic part of Hudson, but it partly is emblematic of how Hudson grew up, with some people certainly living down on the lower part of town, the river, and then others higher up on the hill, and this communication point. Now, people who live in more of a downtown neighborhood can walk up to Prospect Park, which I think is probably unutilized park with a really unique perspective view over the river valley and Hudson, and also allows people from up that neighborhood to come downtown. My example would be the 12-year-old whose parents want to let him go to Kanoki's for an ice cream cone. How do you get there? Do you
On
want
his
him walking
bike.
down Third? Woo, that's a hazard. Coming down Laurel and Third is marked for no pedestrian. So again, they could. I just think that it helps us maintain that part of Hudson, and people do use it. And we certainly hear from people who have not utilized it, and so that's why really the Public Works passed it unanimously, because we felt like this was a reasonable sum. We were happy to get the news. We didn't know if we would be told it had to be replaced. And so to get the news that it could be repaired. Also, we've had the discussion about the Stormwater Utility Fund, projects that might be used for. That is a fund that Public Works Department maintains, or, you know, that's a separate utility that Mike Baraz does supervise. And there's always a fund balance there available for purchase of equipment and other things like this. So it seemed to our committee that this was a worthwhile expenditure of those funds.
To me, it's a stretch on be utilizing the stormwater utility funds. I mean, how many catch basins we could fix? I mean, we all heard how bad the roads are. How many manhole covers could we adjust heights up? I mean, how many would that cover? That's what that storm utility fund is for, not pulling it out and doing a stair project. Just my thought.
That's your opinion. I see it differently, though.
Well, I heard from a resident who has used the stairs and would like to continue using the stairs.
And I've heard from several. And as someone who lives right down the road from that, it is, I do, when it was functioning, I did see people using it.
Sure, but it's been closed for, what, a year? And
About a year.
there aren't that many people that use it. How many stairs are there?
Good question. I have not counted them. Estimate.
Well, again, this is to put
Field
it out
trip,
for bid.
let's go.
So we have real numbers, right? This isn't.
I thought we got the numbers.
No, so this is just, that's just the estimate, the engineer's estimate. So this
We have
is.
a ballpark, but
This
yeah.
is, yeah, so it's, yeah, just an estimate. We don't have any bids.
I'll make the motion that we
Oh,
put it up.
we have a motion?
Sorry,
We have a
sorry,
motion
yeah.
and a second. We have a motion and a second.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah,
Question?
no.
So, well,
I-
Put it up for bids.
I could
That's-
just, I'll just throw this out there too. I mean, I talked with Bolton and Mink, if, say, we wanted like in the plans and we could bid out option A, option B, we would probably have to pay them a little more for design, but they could, basically, we would bid an option to do the repairs and then there would also be kind of an option B to do the removal, and we would see where both bids landed as well. So maybe a contractor would do the removal, but they wouldn't do the repair, so they could bid on just that portion of it, or someone could bid on both, or the other way around. So I guess that is another alternative, but I'd have to ask them, we're already paying, $21,800 for the design of the repairs, so it could be a little bit more effort on their end to add that to the plans, but it's an option.
And that brings up a good point, that if we feel like let's abandon them, they don't make any sense, we need to remove them.
right.
And then I think we need to shore up that hillside, so that we have erosion, because 6th Street and Walnut, we don't want that tumbling down. So there would be new engineering studies needed. I mean, I don't know what that one
Maybe
involves.
retaining walls.
Wouldn't that be part of just the removal, the cost?
Yeah, they were thinking, remove the stairs, fill in the hole, maybe do some riprap or something to kind of slow any water down.
Do you think the riprap would
Yeah,
cover it?
that's-
So that is
yeah.
included to restore it?
In the
Thank you.
in the removal,
So,
option.
looking at spending at least 60,000.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, if the bid comes in
understood.
appropriately.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So yeah, this is just approving the plans to go out for for advertisement.
All right, so anybody else? Got a motion and a second in front of us. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion's approved. Amendment to Municipal Code Chapters 225 Smoke Shops and Chapter 255 Zoning, as well as Table of Permitted Uses.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I could take this one as well. You'll recall that this ordinance was before you a number of months ago, earlier this year. We've taken the time to really look at the smoke shop ordinance to work with law enforcement to update the definitions in terms of what a smoke shop is from a regulatory perspective, and then secondarily, the second piece of this, all wrapped into one ordinance amendment, is a zoning update which incorporates that definition and updates the table of permitted uses as well, to ensure that smoke shops moving forward are only permitted in the B2 district, so up off of the interstate. Maintained in the ordinance are a number of other restrictions in terms of where smoke shops cannot be located in terms of their distances away from schools and parks and other sensitive areas. But this ordinance amendment, it builds out that definition as requested by law enforcement, notes the required city building and fire inspections, and also contains a prohibition against the installation, operation, promoting, and advertising of vending machines that sell any of the products that are identified in the definition, and that was recommended to us by the state of Wisconsin and the enforcement agencies that are dealing with these issues as well. So the recommendation is to adopt this particular amendment to ensure that our ordinances cover all the issues that we're seeing in town.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to suspend the rules. Roll call.
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Ruck?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion's approved, rules are suspended.
Move to adopt ordinance 6-25.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adopt. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Amendments to Municipal Code, Chapter 165, Minors, Article 2, Truancy, Ordinance 14-25.
This is also another matter of cleanup in consultation with the municipal judge. He recommended that we add language that includes what you see in the blue line, indicating that any person 16 years of age or older who violates the article by contributing to truancy shall be subject to forfeiture. So this adds language that incorporates or allows the judge to find really anybody 16 years of age or older in violation of supporting truancy. And really, the tool here is that if a child needs support in making it to school but isn't getting that support, or there are other circumstances where somebody that is more senior or an adult is preventing a child from making it to school, that there be teeth to this particular ordinance, and that the judge then has the authority to impose the fines included in the ordinance itself. And so the recommendation is for approval and adoption of the requested language.
Nick, in your opinion, is this an overreach of government into a parental's rights?
No, not based on the circumstances that the municipal judge described. And ultimately, the goal here is not to be punitive. The goal is to help provide the child get the tools and the resources to be able to get to school on a regular basis. So it's to eliminate the barriers. So if this isn't in here, you can deal with truancy with the youth themselves. But if the youth doesn't have the support to get to school or the encouragement, or if there are outside forces that are promoting that a child not go to school, then it's really trying to get to the root of what the issue is. Because at the end of the day, we really don't want to have to enforce truancy. We just want the kid to get to school.
Anybody else? Is there a motion?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Motion and second to suspend the rules. Roll call.
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield? Yes. Knutson?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Ruck?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion's approved, rules are suspended.
Move to approve ordinance 14-25.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We're gonna switch up here a little bit, if it's okay with everybody. I figured we'll do the department head reports, unless, of course, the department heads need a little more time to prepare.
You got it.
Good evening, everyone. Mike Moraz, Director of Public Works and Parks. So a couple of the highlights going on throughout the community. Obviously, I'll start with O'Neill Road. That project has started. The contractor has done all the utility work, and they are at the point now where they're doing some finished grading. They're going to be pouring concrete curb next week, Tuesday.
Nice.
And then doing some probably wear course, site restoration, and so that project's coming along smoothly. The businesses do have access to their places throughout the entire course of the project, and that's been working out pretty well. So that is the same contractor that bid the island at Spruce and Vine. So kind of once they wrap up that project, I'm guessing probably around Labor Day, at least the rough grading crew, they'll move up to that area and then move that island. I did have a resident reach out to me today and asking about what the status of that was. So probably later this month. And then they're also doing that east leg of Vine Street, heading out of town from Carmichael intersection to the east. There's that short kind of 150-foot chunk that we're going to do a micro mill and resurface that area. So that's kind of the same contractor doing that work. 11th Street. Good news is we're on track to finish before school starts. So if you've noticed, they installed the trail late last week. So the trail has been paved on the west side of the road on 11th. Right now they're adjusting irons, doing the restoration work, bringing in black dirt, finishing out boulevards. They're doing some concrete driveway aprons this week. Needless to say, once that work is completed, kind of the week of August 14th is they're shooting for wear course. And then after that, they'll install the signs, do the striping, and get it up and running before school starts. So that project is coming along actually quite well with all the weather delays that happened throughout the early part of the season. The other thing is street maintenance, chip seals, crack filling. That'll be starting up here August 13th. So I did list in the issue sheet kind of the area that we're hitting. They're going to be all around town. No major roads this go around, thankfully. So traffic shouldn't be impacted very much. The couple other things, parks, splash pad. I'm about to lose it. So, no, the contractor, for whatever reason, I've been on him for the last 6 weeks about like, when are you going to get in here? When are you going to get in here? When are you going to get in here? And I can't get a definite answer on the schedule. And I kind of jokingly said, you're trying to get me fired because if this thing isn't built this year, I'm going to be showing the door. So, he is checking in with the installers. I'm guessing it's weather related, just like everything else, but it comes to a point where it's like, you got to get in here and get it done, right? So we're running out of time to pour the concrete, so on and so forth. So once I do have an update on the schedule, I'll be sure to pass that along. They told me it was going to be this week, but there hasn't been any movement in at all. So like I said, it's kind of do or die time here. And I'm to the point now where I'm going to reach out to them, and I don't know if getting a discount on the price or something to, look at the contract and see what we can get back from, because like I said, it's getting kind of old. And then the last thing that I'll touch on is urban forestry, the trees. So Willow River, the contractor that we hired to help with ash removal, they finished phase 4. We're under 100 trees total in the boulevards and parks for ash trees. So that's a good news. The light is at the end of the tunnel. I was speaking to some of our area communities, River Falls and New Richmond. New Richmond's barely started. River Falls about halfway through. They still got about 1,200 to go. So we're in a good spot when it comes to that. Needless to say, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to shift resources to stump grinding, just because we have been getting a lot of phone calls. I'm sure you have too. And so the remainder of this year between staff, and I'm going to do some contractual work just to kind of get through town and get those initial ones done. And then we'll revisit the rest of the remaining ash trees in 2026 and start a replanting program. So that's kind of the timeline as far as ash trees and replanting goes and stump grinding. So any questions?
2 quick questions. Concerning school start and that up here at Spruce.
Yep.
If you can get it earlier, that'd probably be a lot safer with high school and
That is true.
buses in between.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I didn't think of that. That's a good point, because that is a busy stretch of road, and to try to do construction during when school is started. Yeah, I get that. Yep.
So hopefully you can speed it up. Second one, what is the answer to the question when people are asking you why the width of 11th Street was condensed down to a golf cart size?
So the response to that question is we went through a community engagement process with the residents on 11th Street and then the local neighborhoods, and there were multiple designs that they were able to review, and based on traffic safety, pedestrian safety was a #1 concern along that entire stretch, that this was the design that was ultimately settled on. It did remove parking, and we only heard from 1 or maybe 2 residents that were concerned about that. But it's no different than The width is the same width as if you're going up Third Street Hill and you come to that, kind of that retaining wall that we built.
You can't use Third Street as a,
I know.
comparable.
I know, but it's the same width.
There's
I mean,
the-
it's the same width up there as it is on 11th Street. But so that's kind of the answer that I've been telling people is this wasn't dictated by city staff. It was, here are 5 options, residents, which one do you prefer? And that's the one that they gravitated towards because it helped alleviate some of the problems that they were seeing up there, which was speeding cars through the neighborhood, kids walking on the side of the road. And so to stay within the current right-of-way, this was the option that was settled on. So, yeah. It's different. Yep, it's tight, but.
All right, anybody else?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike. Clerk's report.
We filled our position. Maggie Westmoreland, who was our admin election specialist, has accepted the deputy clerk position at Karen's spot. And we filled the admin position with, she came from, as a part-time clerk from the town of Kinney, and she started today, so that's pretty exciting. We just did the compliance checks with the Department of Revenue, the state agents. The annual maintenance was all done on the voting equipment. And the Municipal Clerks Association's conference is coming up in 2 weeks, and the Election Commission is having a 2-day conference this year that we'll be attending. So,
Nice.
that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Holding off until Mike gets back.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's mine that is under closed session for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can give it in closed session. That's what you're.
No. Go ahead and do it. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that.
All right, yeah, I don't know how it, anyways, probably user error, that's what I would think. Police union negotiations, contract negotiations will start next Wednesday. We'll begin those, we already, the union already reached out to us, and that is the date that we settled on for our first date of face-to-face conversations. We're looking at, let's see, I've been meeting with our attorney, HR, and our assistant administrator to go over personnel policies. We have to revise our personnel policy manual. We looked at it as a whole. There's some AI information that we have to put in there, computer usage, as we start to stretch toward the new AI world that we're in, along with a number of other adjustments that needed to be made to, with some FMLA, some things with that, and a couple of other issues. But we'll be bringing that on August 18th, and then there's a few other scattered things that we've been working on, including the minor thing called the budget coming up. But Sam and I have been working toward that. We just got DOR preliminary numbers with 0.97. That was 0.97 net new construction. So under 1%, which it's been a while, I think, since we've been under 1% for net new construction. So there will be some challenges, I'm sure, that as we're looking at the budget this year that we'll all have to start talking about.
Okay, questions? All right, one thing that I would like to do in the future is when we have closed session, if we could put comments and stuff, you know, that we have at the end, communications recommendations, if we can put that up right before we go into closed session, because there's nobody really around to hear what we have to say there, you know. I don't think these guys are gonna hang out for that, are you? So, and given that, I'm gonna move that up on our agenda right now. Anyway, one thing that I would like to bring up is I do wanna, following along on the tree discussion, I'd like to talk about trees in our downtown area that were taken out and have not been replaced. I'd like to have a conversation about that at our next meeting, or at least in committee, perhaps somewhere. Anybody else?
Yeah, can we get a update and a report on the deer harvest management from Lanfea's group?
Sure, I think that's Yeah, that's good to, how many you want to take out?
More.
All of them. All right, anybody else? Okay, with that, let's see. Closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute, section 19.85, sub 1, sub G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely, in which it is or is likely to become involved, short-term rental at 2231 White Pine Road. Can we take these all at once, or?
All at once is fine.
Okay. Closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes Do we have a motion?
Approve legal action as discussed in closed session on 811 Malibu Drive.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Anybody?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned.